Hey everyone, welcome to Life Everlasting. Today we're going to be talking about how to read sheet music. We're going to be covering the basics, touch a little bit on the advanced stuff. This is going to be a pretty long video and a lot to take in. Anyway, let me know what you think of it down below in the comments. If you like the channel, like what I'm producing, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell icon so that way you don't miss any future content. Look forward to hearing from you. Till then, see you soon. Hope you enjoy the episode. So in this video we're going to be covering a lot of the top level stuff. The more advanced topics could be left for another video, potentially. We'll just see. So the sheet music I'm going to be showing you how to read here is going to be for piano, because that's going to cover about 99% of the sheet music you'll ever see. Like if you're a trombone player, this will cover it. If you're a clarinet player, this will kind of cover it, and so on and so forth. So that's why I chose the instrument I did. It covers about 99% of what you're going to see. So the first thing to note with sheet music is there's some notations before the first measure of the song even starts, like the first part of it. You'll have how to count, you'll have the clef, so all these things dramatically impact how the song carries out. And you will also have keys. Like as you can see here, this one says C major. So the middle C that most people know of, C major, it's not going to have anything above in these lines here. There's not going to be any kind of symbols or anything in the lines. Now when you go into the other key signatures, there's a lot of things go on. We'll cover that later in the video, but for now, C major, if it's in C, it won't have anything. The other thing to note is generally sheet music will have the count, how to count. Most of the time it'll be in 4/4. If it's not 4/4, it will be 3/4, 2/4. Sometimes you'll see something like the common sign. Common is just for 4/4 because 4/4 is common. That's kind of the logic I follow it with. So 4/4. The music is split up into segments, so that way it's easier to process, and it's kind of like the Bible. They put it into verses, so that way you'd be like, well, verse 4 of chapter 5, and quick lookup. That's essentially the counting and why everything's split up into pieces in music is. So I say measure 102, beat 3, and everyone knows exactly where in the song I'm talking about. So 4/4. Well, the way you count is how many beats in the minute. Like in church when they're playing, you're clapping along to the beat. So there's a way of counting the beats per measure. And a measure is just, again, a segment of the song. These are split up, technically mathematical. I wouldn't necessarily call it that, but technically it is. But 4/4 is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And every time I restart, we're hitting a new measure. So it's fairly simple. And 3/4 is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 2/4, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now you may be wondering, well, what's the 4 on the bottom of 4/4, 3/4, 2/4? And what's something like 2/2? What is that? What are these numbers on the bottom? Because they don't seem to have any correlation to the actual music. So the number on the bottom is merely, in a way, stating what the type of note is being used as the unit of measurement. So in 4/4, the 4 on the bottom means we're using quarter notes, which means 1, 2, 3, 4. So the other thing, if you see something like 6/8, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, where the 8 means eighth note, which an eighth note is 2 quarter notes. It's half of a quarter note is an eighth note. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're really going 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and yeah. That's kind of how it's counting. So a lot of different ways of counting the notes in a measure. For the remainder of this video, we will be sticking with 4/4. merely because, again, it's common. It's what you're going to see 99% of the time. So I have here the 4/4 in this first measure. This top bar here is your right hand, and this bottom one is your left hand. So the first thing a person may ask is, what are these symbols? This one we all know. We've seen it before. We may not know what it's for, but we know it. We've seen it. This one is different, not as well known. This is just telling the person who's reading the sheet music what the notes are on these lines and spaces. As you can see, I can move my note here, and when you put it here, different spots will make different sounds, as you can see. So these symbols over here just specify what the notes are on the lines and spaces. This top one is called the treble clef, and the bottom one is called the bass clef. Bass clef is a little bit different. Most people know treble clef pretty well. People who read sheet music anyway, pretty often, it's fairly common. Bass clef, same, but it's a little harder to follow because most of the time people learn treble clef first. And so bass clef is like trying to learn a second language. It's a little bit more difficult to do than the first one you do. So with treble clef, we start at the line, starting at the line, it goes E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. And if you want to go above this, you just keep counting. So F, G, A, B, C, D, and so on. And same for down below. E, D, C, B, A. So it goes both ways. Eventually, you go up so high, as you can see, it's kind of impractical. You may want to, there's some other notation you can do to say, okay, we're really up there, but we're going to show it down here so it's easier to read, kind of thing. Like, oh, just take what you see here and move it an octave up. That is, if you, for some reason, go above, way up there, which this lets me go way up there. Commonly, you'll see people reference this by lines and by spaces. The spaces go F, A, C, E, face, and the lines are every good boy deserves fudge. That's the one I learned back in school. Bass clef is a little bit different. So it goes G, A, B, C, D, E, if I can get it on there, F, G, A. And with it, all the spaces go all cows eat grass, and the lines go great big dogs fight always. Those, again, were the ones I learned in school. The fighting dogs is a little weird, but that's what I learned in school. I don't remember who showed it to me, but it stuck for some reason. So as you can see, there's a little note here. This is a quarter note that I have. So I'm going to put it down here on the middle C. This is where the middle C lies in the sheet music. And if you want to know where the middle C down here would be, there's the octave below it. So D, E, F, G, A, B, C. There's our middle C in the bass clef. So kind of give you a little point of reference as to what these really are. Now, if you're wondering, these little black lines in amongst each measure, these little black rectangles is just a whole rest, meaning don't play anything during this measure. There's also different kinds of rests known as rest. There's a quarter rest, meaning pause for one beat. An eighth rest, pause for half a beat. And then there's other ones like 16th rest, fourth of a beat, 30-second rest, pause for an eighth of a beat, I guess. Which you don't really see. That's, the 30-second rest. Those are like the really, really advanced songs, and those are really hard to do. There's also a half rest, 4/4/4. It's just pause for 2 beats. It's half of a whole rest. So there's also that. So the quarter note, pretty simple. I have it on the B here, but I'm going to put it down here on the bottom for the C. So quarter, I can put 4 of these in one measure. It won't let me put any more than that. So if I play this, you'll just hear 4/4 in its purest, form, I guess. 4/4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I have this pretty fast. There's also, for measuring these in actual time, they have beats per minute. This right now is set to 120, so you would hear 120 notes go by in 1 minute. Give you a little audio thing for it. So, eighth note. This is what an eighth note looks like. Put it on the middle C. It's got a little flag off it. If it's by itself, that's what it will look like. Oftentimes, however, when you see an eighth note, it will be with another eighth note, which means the tops of them will be connected with a bar. So they look a lot like the quarter notes, but they just have a bar connecting them. If I have a third one, flag after it, fourth one, it connects all 4 together. Put that on a D. I want that on a C. There we go. So that's what an eighth note looks like. Sometimes, most songs that most people play don't have 16th notes, but if you want to know what a 16th note looks like, which is a fourth of a quarter note, so 1, 2, 3, 4, for each quarter note there's 4 16th notes, so 1 E and a 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 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. So if I put those together, it's 2 bars. Kind of hard to see there, but there's 2 bars connecting these together. And for 30-second notes, which would be 8 of those per 1 quarter note, those are really rare, but it's 3 bars instead of 2. And so on and so forth. If you want to make it shorter, you just add another bar. Pretty straightforward in that regard. So I'm going to leave a quarter rest there. I'm going to put now what is known as a half note on the C. A half note is 2 beats long, so for every measure there are 2 of those in 4/4. And finally, there's a whole note, 4 beats long, takes up the whole measure in 4/4. So if I was to play this, so that's kind of a sped up version. I'm going to put this down onto 60 beats per minute, so that way we can hear this a little slower and make it a little bit more clear. Quarter notes. So that kind of covers a lot of the basic notes that you'd see in terms of rhythm. I've put these all on C so you could hear that kind of well. So that's kind of the basics on rhythm and stuff. Fairly straightforward when you think of it in that way. I'm going to clear out what I have here so that way we can make a little song. So we're going to do Mary Had a Little Lamb, first song that popped into my head. So I'm going to just go entirely off of ear. This may not be the actual key it's sung in because I don't quite remember. It's been a long time, but we're going to start off on E. So then we're going to go to D because it's 1 note down. Just fill out the rest of the notes. There's a pause here, so I'm going to use 2 beats, half note, and as you can see, when I fill in 2 quarter notes and a half note, that fills up the whole measure. It didn't put in a rest here afterwards, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is a fairly simple song, so it's not anything crazy or complicated, but it gives a little bit of a reinforcement on how these notes really behave. I'm just going to use a whole note here instead of a half note. I was going to continue it on, but it would kind of be repeating itself at that point. So we have corner notes 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, half note, 1, 2, half note, 1, 2, half note, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, whole note. So if we listen to this, we'll have a kind of complete song. Again, pretty straightforward on this part. Where things get a little complicated is when you leave the key of C. And you'll see that occasionally. It'll be over here by the 4/4. You'll see these little letter B's on each line saying they're flat. Sometimes you'll see the pound symbol, which means sharp. We'll get into that. Essentially, those are the black keys on the piano. So that's all for the episode today. I do plan on making a part 2 for this. I noticed that this one is carrying on a little too long, so I'm going to stop it here. The next episode will be covering 16th notes, triplets, notes that carry across measures, things like that. Also loudness as well. Songs that are not in the key of C. So stick around for that. That will be coming around next Tuesday. Until then, let me know in the comment section what you think of the episode. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear it. And until then, see you soon.